We built the first watch designed for hunters. And what that means is like we built a watch around offline mapping. So the ability to use offline maps, to be able to navigate in the woods with offline maps, to be able to like one swipe to your maps, to have that stay where it is, right? But outside of that, like this watch does everything your current, actually a lot more than your current watch does. So it does all the fitness tracking, it does the health tracking, it does notifications, it does all of the things that a smartwatch can do.
Welcome to the LandTrust podcast, where land, technology, and the outdoors meet. Whether you're a landowner, an outdoor enthusiast, or someone curious about the future of recreation on private land, you're in the right place. Each episode, we share real stories from the LandTrust community, from unforgettable guest experiences to conversations with landowners about their land and why they choose to share it, plus interviews with leaders, shaping how we all experience the outdoors. And now, here's your host, Nick DeCastro.
Welcome to the LandTrust podcast, where land, technology, and the outdoors come together. This episode is part of our Outsides Insider series, where we sit down with the founders, operators, and insiders shaping the future of the outdoor industry. Cody Rich is the founder of Bridger Watch, a new smartwatch company built by hunters for hunters. A lifelong hunter himself, entrepreneur, and storyteller, Cody hosts the Rich Outdoors podcast and Elk Hunt, two platforms dedicated to helping people build lives filled with adventure, freedom, and growth. Over the past decade, Cody has built multiple companies, developed deep relationships across the hunting industry, and he's earned a reputation for blending world-class hunting knowledge with practical wisdom on building a meaningful life. Today, he's focused on launching Bridger Watch, a purpose-driven brand on a mission to serve the hunting community with the first smartwatch actually built for the hunting community. He's been working on this for the past couple of years. I've actually tried to get him on the podcast before earlier this year when I started the podcast, and he wasn't quite ready yet. So I'm excited to have him on now and share this story with you. Cody, welcome to the show, man. Appreciate having you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Yeah, looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. So we first got connected when I lived in Bozeman. I don't live in Bozeman anymore. I forget who connected us at this point, but it's been a few years now. So why don't we start out? Usually with these, I kind of like to start out with the bona fides or the bona fides, however you prefer. But yeah, just give people a quick background on yourself.
Yeah. So just grew up as a farm kid. I was really into hunting and didn't want to take over the farm. Thought I was gonna be a firefighter. Long story short, ended up doing some pretty cool things. I got really good mentors early in life. It kind of went down, just kind of opened my world up to doing different things. And so, along the way, I got into like 4-hour work week, kind of got into like the startup world and was really into that. As you're familiar, like the whole, startup culture. And like, I was really into, startups and,
yep.
Like lifestyle design, all of those things that a lot of the guys we all follow.
Tim Ferriss.
Tim Ferriss is a huge, piece of that. And, but I was always like, how do I go hunting all the time? And so most of my life has been actually avoiding big things, like not avoiding big things, but like I was not interested in creating anything massive or big. It was like, to me, the North Star was always like, how do I create a business that makes money when I sleep? I could hunt 100 days a year. And like, that was like success. And so, I never really got sucked into like, build a $100 million company, build whatever.
Yeah. It
was always like everything I've done and selected has been on how do I hunt as much as I want. And I think that's, it's great. It was a lot of fun. I did it for a very long time. I was successful. I built 2 or 3 companies that successfully did that, kind of on to the next thing. And
nice.
And kind of grown as an entrepreneur. And then, gosh, it was probably about the time you and I met a few years ago. That was when I was like, okay, what's next? And for me, I don't want to say it was like I needed more money. It was just like, okay, I feel like I'm a pretty good entrepreneur, but like I don't really have the street cred that I feel like I could if I focused on that thing. And so for me, it was kind of like, looking at what was next, looking at like this concept called the Ikigai, which is like finding your purpose, right? And to me, it was like, I don't know, in a lot of ways, this is going to sound really stupid, but building a business that allowed me to hunt all the time didn't fill my cup as much anymore.
For sure, yeah.
And so it was like, all right, what's next? And then it was kind of like, I kind of want to build a company that I can hang my hat on. So I looked at a lot of the successful entrepreneurs and like, yeah, could I do that, or could I become that? And I was like, yeah, okay, then what's that thing? And so that's my journey to here.
Yeah, we're about the same age, but I remember 4-Hour Work Week and Tim Ferriss and just my mind being blown and like the full thing, right? And I went through that and I did virtual assistants and I wrote a book on it and, all this stuff. So it's funny, it's the similar kind of arc. And yeah, your 100 days a year does sound a little bit like the musings of a single 20-something-year-old guy, right?
Totally.
Super fun and you're single in your 20s. But yeah, life, there is a little bit more to life than that. And especially you start having kids and yeah, you start to wonder. I think a lot of founders are trying to see what they're made of. Like, what is your full measure, right?
And I think a lot of our entrepreneur buddies too, like they built a company and sold it because, when they were in their 20s, it was all about like, oh man, I could build this thing and sell it. And then you sell it. And so many of my buddies now are like, what's now? Well, now what do I do? Like now what?
Man, I was literally having a conversation today about that. I don't know if you listen to the Founders podcast, but it's fantastic. And it's been a theme recently. I was listening to with Raising Cane's guy, the chicken restaurant. And he was talking about that. I for whatever reason, maybe it's the algorithm just feeding me this content, but it's like, why, so many people build a successful business, sell it. And they're like, well, now what? Yeah. Like that's kind of
it's the goal for so long, dude. And you're like, you think it's what you want. And then like so many people do that. And they're like, yeah, life was really hard in the startup, but like you kind of
it was edifying.
That hard.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
I mean, I'm, we're sort of locked into a certain path, so to speak, when you raise venture capital, of course, and there has to be a liquidity moment. So, there's those kinds of things that are sort of built into the model. So, having said that, there is that question of, man, are there other ways to get investors return on investment without having to go and sell your baby? And like, I like to work. I love what I work on. I love the industry I work on. I love the team I work with. I love my landowners. I love all of it. So, the goal for me isn't just like, it would be nice to have some financial security,
Right.
But
I think that's a big part of it too. And I think, and I talk about this, like, I'll be curious your perspective on this, but I think that I don't want to name names, but I have buddies who've sold companies that people would know very well. And when you talk to them, they're like, man, the numbers just got so big and it kind of got scary. And, like there's some of that too, where it's like even successful businesses will sell because like the numbers get big. I don't want to say fast, but like, relatively quickly. And it's like, to get out of your comfort zone. And I had a really good buddy who sold a really big company that, we all know. Yeah. And he was just like, yeah, the numbers just got so big. And I was like, it wasn't worth it anymore. He's like, there was just so much. It just felt like he was ready. He's like, all right.
Does he still feel good about that? Yeah. Does he still feel good about that?
No. I think yes and no. It depends on the day. He does a lot of fun stuff now. So like, it depends on the day.
Of course, right? So, there is always that. But yeah, it is a question that I feel like is being questioned more now than it had been. I feel like in the past, it was like, the glory is the story of the sale and the exit and the, big numbers and, all that. And now it's kind of like, yeah, but then what? I don't know. I'm 38 years old, Yeah. So,
I actually got a lot of respect. Some good buddies with the guys over at Maven. And like, that's like, they're the, I don't want to say the antithesis of that, but like, it's just not on their radar. They're like, we just wanted to build a company that allowed us to stay, in Lander, Wyoming. And like, they're like, we have the best job in the world. Why would we sell that job? Then what? Then what would we do?
Yeah.
And
totally.
like, it was kind of eye-opening for me. I remember like, hearing that and being like, yeah, whatever. Like you could sell for 20 million and then you'd still, wouldn't have to do anything. But they're like, we like working on things, like building cool stuff, like having a good team. And like, I think maybe it's me, my older age, but like, that's more interesting to me these days is like building a great company and not necessarily, the biggest exit the fastest we can.
No.
And so like,
for sure. I don't know if you follow the 37 Signals guys who created Basecamp, but I love those guys. And, it's like getting married to see how fast you can get out of it. Right? I don't know. It just seems like, again, there are outcomes and this isn't speaking like in absolutes about every single time, but the idea, and I would also tell, aspiring entrepreneurs who hit me up with ideas and marketplaces and all this stuff that are like, dude, if you're here to make money, this is a bad way to make money. I made so much more money just selling stuff. I was an enterprise sales guy. I made a lot more money than I do today and have for the last 6
Right.
years. Now, hey, on paper, I might, be worth money, but this is a really bad way to make money if you look at it over the long term, statistically speaking. So you have to do it because you really like the thing you're working on. And, and then maybe you're blessed and it works out and you make a bunch of money too. So.
Yeah. And I think when you have that approach, man, we could get into a deep dive here, but it's like, this to me is like why, I don't want to say why VC sucks, but like, let's say why VC could be bad or like has negative downsides. It's because like, it's 0 or 100. Like you either like you're going to 0 or going to 100. Those are your options, right? And the game is played in a way that like you kind of have to just keep growth at all costs, and that gets very difficult. And so like no one's investing in a company that's like very few people are investing in a company that is like, I don't want to use names, but like the company you're like, hey, I just want to have a cool job and do things and like make a great product for great people
and be profitable and grow, grow respectfully, but
right. Grow slowly. No one likes grow. Like, no one putting their money in likes the word grow slowly.
Well, I just, and I promise listeners, we will get into Cody's new company, but this is an interesting conversation to me specifically. And it's my podcast, so I want to talk about it. But I joke a lot with my head of product, and we look at like, I used to look up to like Brian Chesky, who's the founder of Airbnb, one of the founders. And now I see like he's like a caricature of what all things Silicon Valley and this mindset we're talking about. Like he's this like total freaking weirdo single dude in his mid 40s who's now like who's got a massive company, who's achieved incredible heights, and now he's like launching all these bizarre things that are not. We're gonna get into hotels. Like, oh yeah, that hasn't been explored. But why? Because he's got to grow. We got to grow more. We're $100 billion company. We got to grow more. It's like, well, maybe just be really good. And you see the core business. The core Airbnb product has gotten so much shittier. The experience has gotten shittier. The hosts are treated worse and worse. They're treated like they're replaceable. It's kind of like how Uber treats its drivers. Like, hey, dude, we're going to get robots to do your job. We don't fucking like you, but we need you right now, right? They're not partners with their drivers. And Airbnb treats its hosts like shit too. And I was an early Airbnb host. I remember like that was the guy I looked up to when I first started this company 6-7 years ago. And now you look at like, it's like I said, like a caricature, dude. Like this bizarre dude who is an eccentric billionaire and he thinks that everyone wants massages at their door. Like that's not what normal people want, dude. You have no relationship to real people.
Yeah. Right. And like he's just so out of tune with like what the customer wants. Like it's just like, But I feel like it's a cycle. Man, it's a crazy cycle, and we could talk about like how I avoided it, or hope to. But it's like it's one of those things where, gosh, every company out there, you look at the startup founders that we look up to, and they're all board first, right? They're like make profits for the board first. It's like I just don't know if that's the best long term answer.
Customer first is probably the best long term answer, right?
100%. Yeah. And
that's what we're here for.
Every company seems like they fall into this trap of like, we're for the customer, but like first the board or first the investors, and like they got to get their money. It's like, man, I actually would argue that like the best long-term benefit for anyone financially invested is to create the best product for the end customer.
That's
right? Like that should be a no-brainer, but like that is not.
That's what we're here for. Deliver the best value and service to your customer. Always. And it will follow. Like success, it would make sense, would follow. So, all right, that was my ranting on Airbnb, and just kind of it's sad to watch. Like, dude, you need to like, I don't know, have a family or something, like meet real people. Okay, so let's talk about. I invited you to come on the podcast earlier this year, and you said not yet. So, you want to talk about the new company now?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about it.
Dude, and to back up, this is just interesting for your audience, but it's like, I mean, this thing started years ago, and it's not like, I appreciate like building public and all of those things, but it kind of starts as like, oh, you're still figuring out if it'll work. Like it's, it's so big. And then like it goes on and you're like not really talking about it. And then just, you do years of not talking about it. And it just kind of becomes like, when do you start talking about it? And so you were kind of like, you should just talk about it. I was like, yeah, but I hate to even say anything when like the timelines are so vague still that you're like, it's hard to keep people interested. And maybe it would have been an interesting story. Maybe someday it'll come out to like tell the whole like 3-year journey. Right. But like it's hard to keep people interested for that long. And so it was like, when we get closer, I'll start talking
For sure,
about it.
yeah.
So that's backed up. But to kind of tell a story, I actually didn't know if I wanted to build my next company in the hunting space. At the time I was a little bit burnt out on the hunting industry and just like the way things were going. But, I was trying to figure out what was next and kind of just had this idea. And at the time I was actually doing a lot of entrepreneur coaching, had a community, and wasn't super fulfilled in that. And, I'm going through like, okay, what is next? Like what's next steps and all these things. And I think a big thing for me was like understanding that I'm an operator. I like operating. I like doing the thing. I don't want to be an investor. I don't want to be a coach. I don't want to be I like building things.
Yeah.
That's just who I am. And so like that idea was a big piece of this, but it's like, even that, I'm out hunting and onX had actually just had CarPlay. It was back when they first launched CarPlay and I'm playing with that. I had a new smartwatch and, I'm doing all the things like playing with a smartwatch. I got a smartwatch because I wanted to track my runs, track my fitness, all of those things.
That's why I got mine.
And yeah, I got into it. And then, as I'm hiking to a glassing knob, I was actually turkey hunting, but actually it's hiking to a glassing knob and I'm looking at onX every, 100 yards or whatever, trying to stay on track. I was like, man, why couldn't I just put this on my watch? That would be super cool. Right. And didn't think much of it. As the week goes on, I'm like, I realize how many times a day I pull my phone out. I was like, this is crazy. And you start to notice it and you're like, man, I pull my phone out all the time.
Like hundreds of times a day. Yeah.
Right. And you're just checking all the time. And then it was like, how business ideas do, they just kind of fester in your head and you think about them and you start, you're like, oh, whatever. And I actually kind of posted this in my community. I was like, oh, someone should put onX on a watch. And it festered for a couple more weeks. I was on a hunt with another buddy and you start looking into the market, which as a multi-time founder, you start to pick up things that are good ideas and bad ideas. Cause you're like, oh man, my first company was an ammunition. So it's like, oh, shipping ammunition is hard and expensive. And there's all these legal things, all the what not to do's.
Yeah.
But as you my second company was a subscription. So it had this subscription-based piece to it. And so you pick up these little things over the years are these equate to better business ideas. And
especially for you as a founder too. There's that founder market fit too, right?
Right. And it was total founder market fit. And there's a lot of things. So long story short, I'm like, man, this is a giant industry. It's growing, always ride the wave. And I think there's a real need for this particular solution and everything on the market. It's the classic blue ocean, red ocean. So when you look for an idea, a blue ocean is there's no competitors, right? So you're like, okay, this is a big opportunity. No one else is doing it. And a red ocean is a very there's a bunch of hotels. To your point, you made hotels, right? But the thing is, to Chesky, when he thought of this, it was okay, blue ocean, there's nobody doing this version, but there is a red ocean, which is there's a proven product market fit. And so when you think about business ideas, it's important to not invent something that changes everyone's behavior, needs to change people's behavior, because what happens is maybe we could use LandTrust. LandTrust is tough because people aren't used to booking hunting in that capacity.
That's
so
right.
There's no other person doing it. Great. But we have to change a behavior and you have to work through some difficult
education
things.
Cycles. Yep.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So when you take something like a smartwatch, you're very proven market. The products exist, right? And we weren't doing anything that revolutionary. Other watches had maps on there. It wasn't a primary core feature. It didn't do it well and those things. And so we looked at it and I looked at it and said, okay, I think, if we had great maps, it had a device that I could actually use. Ideally, it had my waypoints, my information, my tracks, and all those things. I think there's a market for that. And a lot of people were telling me they laughed at us, right? They're that's too small of a market. Are you kidding? And people laughed at us and told it was too big of a lift for what we had to do. And here's all the reasons it won't work. And there's a lot of signals pointed to me oh, there's a strong moat in this category, which means it's very hard to break into because it's very expensive. It's very hard to do. There's not a lot of things, right? But with that said, you want to look for is it's a growing market and there's definitely people buying the product, right? So at the time when I first started this, I think Garmin was still sub $40 billion market, but like they were near $40 billion company with very low competitors, and all of their competitors were around or close to $1 billion valuations. And so you're like, okay. And we could get into like, a lot of investors don't like to say percentage of market. I tend to look at it and say like, oh, could we capture 1% with a product that did X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
And there's pieces of that are bad math, but in my head, it was like, yeah, I think the hunting community could use this product. I think the market's at least big enough to build the thing. And so down the rabbit hole we went.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we can dive into that. I don't know if you have questions or.
Yeah, no. So do you want to give the name of the company and the product and all that?
Yeah. So, the name's funny, actually. We talked about it. So I, didn't have really a name, thinking about it. And it was one of those things where like name will come to me eventually. And it was later, almost a year later, I was reading the Jim Bridger biography, not autobiography, the Jim Bridger biography. And I'm a big history nerd and love reading those like old trapper books. And in that book, they were talking about how Jim Bridger had a sixth sense for knowing where he was. And so I was like, that's a cool name. But if you live in Bozeman, everything is dog is named.
Yes, everything is named Bridger. Everyone's dog is Bridger. Everyone's construction company's named Bridger. Yes.
It's so terrible. So I was like, that'd be cool. But like, I didn't want to do it. It was like, it just became a placeholder. And it was like, we'll just, whatever. It kind of was like, oh, Bridger watch, right? And as my buddy John Barklow like jokes about this, he's like, you got to be careful with placeholders because they will become the thing. And like, it's so hard to find a better name after like, I think that went on for another year and a half before I was like, screw it. We're just going to go with like Bridger watch. And in Bozeman, it's really tough because everything is named Bridger, but on a national scale,
it's a very unique name nationally. And for the listeners, the Bridger Mountains are right there in Bozeman. They basically end up in town. So
yeah. So the name of the company is called Bridger Watch, and the watch itself, which is this one that I'm wearing,
nice,
is called the Reckon. So
okay,
so that's kind of how it got its name. I tried to avoid it, but the placeholder stuck.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, so you found an opportunity to bring, and this is where I've never touched hardware, never done anything with hardware. Only ever played in software. So how has that been? So you're literally doing soup to nuts. You're doing hardware and software. So talk to me about that.
Yeah. So when, I had the idea, I go to the smartest nerd I know. And I'm like, hey, how do we put on X on a watch? Like basic statement. And he's like, man, and he's a hardware guy. Like he's IoT hardware too, which is like Internet of Things. So connected hardware, like he's done that. He's like his whole career. Long story short, he's like, I'd have to figure it out. We kind of go down the rabbit hole, and a lot of people are like, you can't do it. If you did do it, you'd have to build your own operating system, which is like, no one's doing that. Like, that's not a real thing. And they're like, okay, but why?
But some people have.
Just
there are operating systems.
Yeah. I was like, so it is doable. And they're like, yeah, but like it'd be. And they're like, well, and the classic entrepreneurial advice is like, why don't you test the market first with like a half-ass version and see if people want it and then go build the operating system? And it was like, no, that's not an option. Like, trust me, I am the market. People want this. Like we want maps. We want watches. Like that's the thing. And so many people like kind of scoffed at us because they're like, well, you should build a Samsung app that basically overlays on like this terrible ways of doing it. And like, here's how you could do it, right? And test and see if the market wants it. I was like, no, we're all in. Like, thank you, but no.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, there is this whole minimum viable product thing, but it's hard with a hardware thing to go minimum viable product,
Totally. And that was just like from the beginning. And the biggest driver for me was like, it had to compete with the best in battery life. So like, there was a couple like non-negotiables for me. Like it had to do offline mapping and it had to have battery life. And for me, that North Star was like, engineers fought me on this, but like 10 days of hard use in the backcountry. Yeah. Like if I have to charge this thing every day, throw it away.
It's worthless. Yeah. I mean, like I'm wearing a Garmin, and I told you this before we hopped on, but I mean, this is the new Instinct 3 with the AMOLED, and this is like 16 days of battery life, dude. And my wife has an Apple Watch, and it's like, if it's not on the charger before she goes to bed, like it's dead basically by the time it hits the charger every single freaking day, dude. And it's like, that's not useful to somebody outdoors. She doesn't. She can't wear it.
Yeah.
So like she doesn't wear it. Yeah. So totally. Battery life's a non-negotiable for sure.
Yeah. And so that was like in the North Star. We did feasibility studies. We, put some money in to figure out. And then like the mapping component, no one had ever done before. So that was like a thing we had to figure out. That was kind of unique to us. And yeah, dude, lot goes into it. You got to design your own hardware, which is kind of a cool story. We had to design our own software, firmware, OS, all these pieces, but I think, there's nothing that special about me. And I always say it's timing, and serendipity has like dropped the absolute best talent in the world on my plate time and time and time again. And I'm like blown away. But I think there's like one of the biggest lessons learned for me in the last 3 years is like when you select a North Star that drives people, it really does attract a talent. And when you go and say like, hey, we're going to do this big audacious thing. And I'll use Elon as a great example. It's like, Elon's his goals are so audacious that it attracts the best people in the world who just want to be a part of that. And it's like this magnet where it's like, once you start attracting A players, other A players want to be on that. And it's like, it's crazy how it kind of creates its own, momentum. Yeah,
certainly. I mean, and if you're working on something meaningful with passion, and it's obvious that you, the founder, have the passion for it, and it's something that's meaningful to a lot of other people. I mean, I get hit up all the time for people looking to work here. It's like, we're not hiring right now, but I appreciate it. It's flattering. Thank you. But yeah, you do. It is a magnet for sure. Okay. So it looks like, when you look at the specifics, obviously we're on webcams right now. So the watch it's going to look like crap. Mine looks like crap, Okay. So you went with a rectangle. Why rectangle versus circular? Let's talk about like some of the design choices and features.
Yeah, the backstory on that is really interesting. So a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, we got featured in LA Tech Week, 24 or 23. Don't remember. Either way. So we got featured at LA Tech Week because we were one of the first companies to take an AI render and turn it into a manufacturable product.
Nice.
So, I started this company when ChatGPT was very new. And I don't know if you remember when DALL-E first came out. Like that was the first, like you could do pictures, right? And I was building the pitch deck, and you've probably seen this image, but in there is like it looks like a hand-drawn watch, and it was a square watch. And I like, it was in one of the deck slides or whatever. And David, my co-founder, he's like, oh dude, where'd you get that picture? That's pretty cool. And I was like, oh, there's this new program called DALL-E that ChatGPT uses. And he's like, oh, cool. The next day at like 6 a.m., he texts me. He's like, man, I was up till midnight last night. And one of the first images I got of a watch was this one, but I got these 10 and I couldn't get it to do it again. But what do you think? And I was like, dude, that's it. That's the watch. And it was like just clear as day. Everything I wanted out of it was one of the first pictures that DALL-E made when we said rectangle watch. And I wanted a rectangle watch because of the mapping, right? And it was like, okay, it has to be that. And so it was crazy because we had this like, boom, this is it. Like go hire a designer to turn this into something real. And like, we're on our way. And I don't think that if I didn't have that North Star, I could have ever gotten to where it would be today or anything close. Like it was such a battle, dude. Like we went multiple design. I think ended up 6 or 7 different designers. I fired everyone a few times. It was, and it was like, we had the North Star and like you still would get, and the funny thing about designers is they all want to put their spin on things and like slowly it would evolve. And a smartwatch is so complex that subtle changes would change it. And it would go from hell yes to not hell yes. And I couldn't tell you. I remember there's meetings I would leave and I'd be like, David, I don't know what they did, but like it went from hell yes to not hell yes. Yeah. And he goes, I don't know. I have to look in the CAD file. And he would look in the CAD file and it'd be like, oh, this corner changed 15 degrees. And I was like, well, unchange it.
Yeah.
And
Command Z.
Like, oh, yeah, control all. And it was like, it was that for 6 months of like design changes. Can't do this. Oh, well, you know, this in the AI image is an anomaly, and you can't. I was like, well, you know, we have to do this. It was a journey. It was one of the hardest things we did was that design. And even like the bolts around, you can't really tell, but there's like bolts around the outside.
Yeah, I see that.
And like I would show up one day and all the bolts would be gone. And then it was like, no, the bolts stay. And they're like, well, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I'm not, you know, you're all, like a lot of the designers in the wearable space are in LA. And
yeah,
so
it's just like, dude, I'm not looking for LA, dude. This is, in fact, if you like it, I probably don't. It's probably the opposite.
Yeah, and like one of the people that helped design it, you know, he could tell he was like kind of coming more towards my side, and I would always be like, "Oh, we're gonna have you eating beef jerky and chewing Zins by the end of the week," you know, like trying to get him to come on board with like we're building a rugged, manly watch, you know, and they were very dainty type people, and so that was a journey, but yeah. The decision to go rectangle was interesting. It was one of those, you know, they always say as a founder, you'll have these hills you have to die on and it feels like everyone is fighting you. And the rectangle was one. And it was, I remember this very vividly because like everyone was telling me, and for the record, like when you build your own OS, like everything has been done in round. So outside of Apple, which you're not getting access to, everything has been done before, but only in round. So the engineers want to do everything
right. It's like the framework's already there. Yeah, it's like
the framework's there. Like we could really do this easily. And it was like no, and like even from manufacturing, like Apple's the only one at the time that was really kind of doing it, and so there was not much access to all the parts. The parts like so everything is kind of built in that space for round. And so it was just this hill. I was like, no, we're not changing it. Like it has to be this. And, it made things a lot harder, but like, I'm pretty pumped with the outcome. And I just remember like, no one does someone telling me no one does a square watch. And I was like, really? Cause Apple does it. And like, why don't you tell them? And like, they're selling 60 million units a year. Like, I'm pretty sure it works.
Yeah. And I like analog watches a lot. I love them. And some of the most iconic analog watches are square or rectangle.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, even the G-Shock, dude. Like G-Shock is like a Casio. Like, tell me you can't do other shapes. Like the Casio is one of like the most iconic watches and not round.
So, all right. So you've gone through all of this. It's been a few years, blood, sweat, and tears. Again, hardware is a whole nother level of thing. So where is the product at now? You're wearing one, so there's at least one. Yeah. So where are you at with all that?
Yeah. So we started. Yeah. I mean, I don't know when I started wearing one. I wore so many watches that didn't work. Like it was kind of funny. Like you feel like a dork when you're like, this watch doesn't work, but I built it, so I'm gonna wear it. And yeah, so there's been levels of working. This one we got actually works really good. Really pumped with where it's at right now. And we're gonna do a lot of testing. I've been testing it all fall. There's probably 3 or 4 of them that we've been testing all fall. And now we really start moving into the testing phase where it's like we're doing a new beta group every single week. And like they're like full-fledged, like here's what we're testing, here's all the things.
Beta group meaning you're putting this watch out on somebody's wrist and for them to use it, who are not who are out, like whether they're investors or friends or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
There's that. I mean, there's community too. We've been pulling a number of just community people, like sign up on the website and nice. And if you sign up on the website, just disclaimer, like doesn't mean you're gonna get it. And I'm looking for people who. I don't really care how much you hunt. I'm looking for people who understand other watch systems and pros and cons, who can follow directions, who are interested in like doing a.
This isn't like I'm the best hunter, so you should let me wear the watch. Yeah, which is
right.
Bozeman seems to always devolve into like who is the best hunter. I never competed because I'm not the best hunter, and I know that. But yeah, I
would say like thoughtful feedback is way more important than how many days in the field you can do. So we're testing hundreds of them over the next few months. And so opening up pre-sales December 9th. So the December 9th, open up pre-sales, fairly limited run. We'll have our first full run early February.
Cool.
I'm saying February. I keep saying February because I'm like, I think it'll be a little bit sooner, but we'll say in February. And it boils down to like hardware's dialed, things are dialed. It's just like when we're ready to ship software. And I think it'll be there, but I hate to say like
you guys are 85% there with the software, just figuring out. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Working out the kinks.
Okay. Give me the, like, you're in Bridger Brewing, which I love Bridger Brewing and I miss
having
Brewing.
Bridger pizza.
Having Bridger pizza, and you sit next to a dude who hunts, because he hunts because he's wearing a Sitka at the bar, and you're like, "Hey man, do you hunt? You should try my watch." What's your pitch to him?
Yeah. First and foremost, like, it's for watch guys. Like, I don't know, and people watch guys are like knife guys or gun guys.
Yeah,
and I
totally.
had someone tell me, like, they're like, "Well, why would I switch from a Garmin?" And it's like, well, you don't switch from a Weatherby. You just buy another gun.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So our pitch is, I would say, we built the first watch designed for hunters. And what that means is, like, we built a watch around offline mapping. So the ability to use offline maps, to be able to navigate in the woods with offline maps, to be able to, like, one swipe to your maps, to have that stay where it is, right? But outside of that, like, this watch does everything your current, actually a lot more than your current watch does. So it does all the fitness tracking, it does the health tracking, it does notifications, it does all of the things that a smartwatch can do. I hate to use the comparison, but, like, we sit somewhere between a Garmin Phoenix and a Garmin Tactics. So
I was going to ask about the Tactics. So I'm a watch guy. You should send me one because I use mine every day. I actually don't use notifications. I got a smartwatch. I do not want my notifications. I don't have it connected to my phone at all. I use it for health and fitness. That's all I want it for. Yeah. But I was out hunting. I went and killed an antelope recently. I was like, fuck, I should have bought the Tactics, because I'm like, I kind of want to have some of that ballistic stuff on here. But anyways.
Okay. Yeah. So so we sit pretty close to a Phoenix price wise. So at $1,100, it's actually cheaper than the Garmin Phoenix 8 now. But we stole a bunch of features from the Garmin Tactics. So with that, like the whole red shift. So you're hiking out at night and the watch can go into red mode, which doesn't affect your night vision. I took the dope chart. Like, I did ballistics differently. I didn't necessarily want to be a ballistics calculator. What I wanted was a dope chart. So, like, I have my dope chart saved in my phone. Yep. And, like, I wanted the ability to have a backup dope chart. And so, all of the things that, like, are a little bit better for a hunter, more hunting focused. We did add the flashlight, which is like,
dude, the flashlight I use every single day, all the time. I have a new puppy. I'm like hopping up at night and just like getting him outside. People think it's a trinket. Must-have. I love it, dude. It's like the best thing ever.
No, and the instinct just came out with it. But, like, I used to tell people I would buy $1,000 watch for the flashlight.
Yes,
alone. Like
every single day, multiple times a day, I use the watch. Yes. I use that.
Yeah. So yeah, it does all of those things. And, like, I don't know what I can say exactly yet, but if it's still engineering math, but if the math holds up, we should be one of the best battery lives on the market.
Nice.
So I don't want to, like, say numbers yet, but I think we beat.
So here comes the watch again. It is for watch people. So are you going to do, like, is it going to be similar to like an AMOLED, or is it going to be kind of a grayscale?
No, it's AMOLED.
Okay, so it's going to be AMOLED. You're going to do solar?
Yeah. Dude, solar is a joke. The math isn't math.
Yeah.
And Garmin stopped doing the solar on the AMOLEDs. And the solar was always a joke. Like, if you run the math, it doesn't do anything. It never charged. It slowed your burn down. Yeah. And with the new AMOLEDs, you really don't need a solar, because, like, the battery's good, dude. Like,
for the non-initiated AMOLED, like, I'm wearing a Garmin Instinct 3, and I bought it because I started swimming, and I'm like, man, I use an app on the phone that pushes it. I don't use Garmin's app. I use it's called My Swim Pro. It's awesome. It's like just builds my swim workouts. I don't want to think about that. Just like, tell me what to do. It's kind of like Mountain Tough. Right? I used to go to Mountain Tough. It's like, I don't want to think about working out. Just I'm going to show up and you tell me what to do. Yeah. So same thing. And it pushes it through Connect to my watch. And it's just like, it's doing stuff in the pool. And swimming is unique, I think, from that perspective, because it's like, you're in the water, right? So touching the phone and fucking around with all, it's like, no. So I looked at that, and I looked at the AMOLED and the original one. But yeah, the AMOLED, again, fully charged, this thing's like 16 days.
Double that.
Yeah, so which is incredible, right? And I could have gotten
Yeah.
I could have gotten the other one. I forget what the other screen's called, but it's kind of basically grayscale or whatever. But that one has solar that basically for the non-AMOLED. I think it worked well.
It's
but
marketing.
yeah, okay, interesting.
Yeah, certain companies use that, and it's purely marketing.
Interesting.
And we're touchscreen, so yours isn't touchscreen.
No,
but we built everything so it's touchscreen and/or button.
I love buttons.
So like you're navigating maps. Yeah. Same. And you got gloves on. You can't use touchscreen.
Totally.
So, so we built everything to do both. And I just think our OS is a little bit simpler. Dude, I could really get in the weeds here, but I think ours is easier, more user friendly. I think the Garmin operating system, I hate this. Like, I don't want to it's so hard to not talk about Garmin when you're but
you have to, right? I mean, that's,
right.
You have to.
It's the 900-pound gorilla in the room. I don't think their operating system is very intuitive. And I think a lot of people struggle with it.
I agree.
And I talked to a ton of people and it was like, hey, what do you use? What do you not use? Like, I know. This thing kind of confuses me. I use altitude and time.
Bro, I probably use like 4% of all the shit that's on my Garmin. And then you have to try to figure out, I'm like, got to remember where is that freaking setting and that screen and all that stuff.
It's so hard.
Yeah, it's so much. Now, again, I got it for a very specific use case. I don't care. I don't want phone notifications on my watch. I don't need that. I want to go swim, and this is it. I wanted something ruggedized, so this one has like the the bolts or whatever on it too. Yeah. And I fish and I go out. So
doesn't look like an Apple Watch.
Yeah, exactly. And I could you could bang it on shit and now. But when I went hunting, I'm like, damn it, I wish I had some of the ballistic stuff.
And like to me, it's like the redundancy to maps, like.
This doesn't have any maps.
We're building a redundancy to the most important piece of gear, which is maps. Eventually, wink, wink, we'll probably build the best redundancy for maps plus comms. Yeah. But like right now, that's what we want to do. Yep. And there's a future where we kind of build something similar to what you're wearing. Yeah. And there's ways to solve that. But like, it kind of does everything. I think it's a smoother, cleaner operating system. But by and large, if you're a watch guy, like watches are an identity thing, dude. Like,
totally.
Like, a lot of guys don't want to wear an Apple Watch because
I'm not wearing that shit.
Yeah. And so like, that was a huge piece why I spent so much time on the design because it had to look good. It had to this is an everyday watch. It has to work and do all of the other things. And it has to represent like when I always like dream scenarios, like Rogan wears the thing, right? And like, oh yeah, I want to wear the watch that Rogan wears. And so like, that was kind of why we put so much effort into the other things. But there's like a bunch of really easy wins, like to the notification. Like if you go read the reviews and people get really frustrated because Garmin doesn't have a clean way of like, yes, I want notifications or no, I don't. It's all or nothing.
Yep.
And so like if you turn notifications on, you're getting
everything. Dude. No, not
like,
interested.
So it's like, I mean, if you wanted, you're like, okay, I want Slack updates, but I don't want text messages, or I want text messages, but I don't want Slack updates. Like super easy. We can do all that. We did that. So
yeah. For me, again, like, and I was always the guy because I love analog. Like I love watches. These are smart devices. I almost don't want to call it a watch, but it is. And I find myself every day this thing now, and I have a very nice. I have an IWC, which is a very nice watch, and I used to everyday that thing. I wear it hunting, fishing, and that's a dress watch. It's not like a Submariner or something. That's meant. But I've done a lot of things with it I shouldn't have done because I'm like, whatever, I have it. I'm going to wear it. What am I going to keep in a freaking box? But for me, like the job to be done was it's fitness oriented and I love it for that reason. Fitness, sleep, all that stuff. But swimming was the anchor thing for me. And it's kind of like, then it opened up to like, okay, I do like it for working out. Although I freaking hate how they make you go and build workout plans into the watch, for like, in the weight room. And then I've come to appreciate other aspects of it for sure. But I probably use 4% of all the features. And it certainly wasn't purpose built for me. I'm using certain features of it that I really like. And let me just say, I really like because there's not other purpose-built watches for it, which is kind of like your whole hypothesis. Hey, as a hunter, you can use a Tactics. As a hunter, you can use these other watches, but you just know this wasn't built for you. It's kind of like you're making it work.
So, dude, I got a question. Like, how do we think about swim? We kind of touched on this before the podcast, but I'm genuinely curious. Like, what makes it a great watch for swim guys?
Okay, well, again, when I looked at watches and I was evaluating across watches with swim is the only thing I cared about, right? It's like, yeah, the other shit, you can do bike and run and heart rate and all that stuff, right? It's like table stakes. To me, I found an anchor. The anchor for me was this other app. And I use this other app called My Swim Pro because it just like builds my workouts and then it pushes it. Now, it actually works better with an Apple Watch, but I was like, no, I'm not buying a freaking Apple Watch. Not happening. So it was kind of like that thing, right? I'm not going to do that. So I looked at, I think Suunto had one. Garmin made a swim specific watch, but it was like, I'm not wearing that, So it's this funny thing between and I think they discontinued that watch. It was called I forget what it was called. So to me, it was a mixture of okay, well, I live down here on the coast now. I go to the beach a lot. You go out saltwater fishing. So it's got to be rugged enough to be handling sand and beach and salt water and all that corrosive stuff. And then be good in the pool and have good integration with this other app, this third-party app that I use with it. So those are kind of the things. And then it's like, okay, cool. I can use it for some of these other things I like to do too. But that was kind of the thought process for me. None of it was like, I want notifications on my watch. I don't want notifications on my watch.
Right. Yeah. And you can take those off ours. I'd be curious. When we start building the swim stuff, so we can integrate with Strava. I assume, I don't want to say I'll double check if we can do the My Swim Pro or whatever.
Yeah.
Swim Pro. Yeah. I don't see why not. And that's the nice thing about building your own operating system. You kind of get to do whatever you want.
For sure. So. Yeah. And look, and then I think, design wise, it's kind of like what you're talking about. It's more rugged. It's got the screws. You can bang this thing. You're not the bezel sits up a little bit on it. So it's like, okay, I'm not banging the face on stuff or whatever. So there's a few things there.
Yeah. I mean, as far as that goes, we have titanium bezel. Whatever, I forget. I should know this. The glass on it's whatever the most. I don't remember, sapphire or gorilla. But it's
built for it. Yeah, dude. Like I said, and it's funny. I like, I talked about Basecamp. I think maybe before we were talking about it on this. So we use Basecamp for project management. Basecamp's been around for freaking 25 years, right? And you had all these competitors come up like Asana. I remember I was a productivity nerd. So after 4-hour work week, dude, everything. I was using ClickUp and Monday and, what it was before Monday and Asana and all this stuff, right? And when I got Asana, I would make the comparison between an Asana and Garmin, where it's we have every feature ever. And you can do whatever you want with it. It's
right.
Okay, it's like going to the bar where there's 72 beers on tap. I don't selection anxiety, dude. Whereas Basecamp says, nope, this is how the product works. Here's why we design it this way. And if it's not for you, that's okay. You can go somewhere else. And I like the clarity of thought, right? The clarity of thought is we have a very specific perspective on how project management should be done. And we write about it. We talk about it. We put out all this stuff. And if you subscribe to that, you're going to love this. And if you don't, you should go somewhere else, So I always go towards that kind of I want somebody who's building product with a perspective and you can feel it, right?
Yeah.
So that would mean I would fall in your camp for the Bridger watch because you're building it with a perspective that I most likely will like.
No, totally. And, it's kind of like the running thing. People instantly, well, are you going to tap the running market? It was our watch works really good for running. I have no interest in marketing it to runners, but I'm
not a runner.
Buy it and it'll work. I'm not a runner.
Yeah.
So it works very well for that. And we had people oh, could you do it with golf? And it's not interested.
Now you're Garmin,
maybe, but not interested.
Again, Garmin.
Yeah, now you're Garmin.
Choose your own
Garmin's
adventure.
A great product for that. Yeah. So
I like the perspective. So, okay, one thing, having gone and done this podcast, kind of the Outsides Insiders thing, the common thread, which I mentioned kind of almost every one of these with rec tech, which I would consider this recreation technology, specifically around the hunt space, but you can say fishing and other stuff too, is these rec tech companies and products are really about effective use of time outdoors. Again, hunting 100 days a year is just not a reality for most of us at this age and stage of our life. So it's less time in the field, busier life, kids, wives, businesses, all these other things. You're not going to spend, all weekend drinking beer and getting your maps out and planning your hunt that you're going to go on for 2 weeks. It's no, dude, I got a weekend, I got a day, all this other crap. How can I make my life into this time effective without having to put all that time? And so I definitely see yours, in that lens, you're using your time more effectively because you're not pulling a phone out, messing with that, worried about bringing batteries. Like I'm just saying stuff off the top of my head. I mean, do you feel like you're in that zone too?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say we're like survival gear or anything. It's me. It's like, this is the product I wanted. So I built it for myself. And to your point, like here's, I guess a good way to explain it is like, I would look at like Garmin is an events-based operating system, which means like you do a workout, you do a swim, you do a thing, right? And I like to think of us as a lifestyle operating system where it's like, I go on a hunt. I don't like, I always laugh when you like look at a Garmin because it's like, select hunt, start hunt. You're like,
start hunt. You're like, right now.
Start hunt. Like, here we go.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I look at it as like a lifestyle piece of that. So this is we build tools to fit our life and our lifestyle that make all of those things come together. So is it time efficiency? Yeah. Is it like, how my fitness stuff? We didn't even mention like we put Mountain Tough on the watch because so like the ability to record my Mountain Tough workouts, right? Because that's a part of my lifestyle. It's like I train a lot of the year for hunting. Even when I run, it's because I'm not running because I like running. I like running because it makes me in shape for hunting season, right? And it like drives me. And so all of these things were like more about that lifestyle. And I think that kind of explains it because it's like our operating system is a lifestyle operating system. It's like you live your life not by an event or you like start a Hyrox. It's like, this is how we live.
I like that. It's a definitely a great way to explain that. Tactically, you're going to be having just like one-to-one parity with your Onyx. Are there other mapping apps or is it Onyx only? Like, how are you thinking about that?
I don't know what I could say and not say. So waiting for clearance from headquarters on what I can say and what I can't say. So what I know I can say is that, we built this to be a redundancy to maps. So, and again, from the beginning, it was like, how do I put Onyx on a map?
Right.
You can do that. I can do that today. I could put at least my waypoints and my tracks and all those things onto my watch. And in order to do that, we built our own map. Well, we built our own mapping, right? Yeah. So we have a base map that comes with the watch. When you buy a watch, you get our base maps, right? And it's topo only. We never really wanted to compete with Onyx. The goal has always been like, how do we sync that? I would say things are coming. And I think it's going to work. And I just need to get the green light before I can say what exactly it does and doesn't do.
Sure.
But let's just say I'm very comfortable that we beat anything on the market today as is. And as far as building a redundancy to maps and maps you can actually navigate and the ability to do offline mapping, the ability to like save my waypoints from whatever system you use and put it into the watch. So then I have all my waypoints. So all of those things work really well. And I think there's a lot that's going to happen in the next month, but also like 12 months. I think there's some really cool things coming for you guys.
Nice. Okay. All right. So thinking about February, if you're looking for testers, you already kind of told people what you're looking for. It's not just that you hunt all the time. It's being able to give interesting feedback, follow directions, that kind of stuff. What else? Anything else you want to let folks know? Is there a website? Is there social? All that stuff? Okay.
Yeah, go follow the website, follow the social. I mean, the big thing is we're building this for the hunting community. I've been in the hunting community a long time. And I want to build the best product we can for hunters. And I want to build something cool for our industry. I love this industry. And it's like, I feel like I got to protect it a little bit. So for me, like I've always been a huge believer in that. And like I build companies to help hunting. And so like, that's what we want to build. Nothing against any of the competitors out there. They're just not really for our industry or by our industry. No, so like help us create the best thing and sign up for the email list for sure. If you want news updates, like kind of what's going on, trying to put out as much as we can and keep people up to date, which is probably the best place to catch up. But for sure, if not, go follow us on socials as well.
Okay. Say the website and say the socials.
Yeah. Bridgerwatch.com. And then social is the same, bridgerwatch.com.
That was Cody Rich with Bridger Watch. I really want to thank him for coming here. I think we're the first podcast for him to talk about the watch. And I think we're going to be launching this right as he's launching the watch. So excited to be, an honor to be that guy in this podcast to share that. So to all our listeners out there, if you did enjoy this episode, do us a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the podcast, share it with some friends, whether it's on Spotify or YouTube, send them a link. It does help us grow the podcast and keep bringing great guests like Cody on for these really cool conversations about what's next in the outdoor tech industry. You can check out more Bridger Watch by going over to bridgerwatch.com. You can follow him on Instagram. I believe it's just Bridger Watch. And you can follow Cody on his LinkedIn at Cody Rich. Give him a search there. Also, if you have not done it yet, please do go to landtrust.com and create your free account. It is the easiest way for you to stay in touch with LandTrust, but also for us to start sending you amazing experiences, do-it-yourself hunts, fishing trips, etc., that we have going on all over the country at all seasons. So that is, again, landtrust.com. Create a free account. Tell us what you like. Do you like to hunt? Do you like to fish? What species? What states? Weapons that you like to use, whether it's archery equipment or, rifles, etc. And we will hand curate these things and send them to you as they come on to landtrust.com. So you'll know about that awesome archery elk hunt that you can take the new Bridger watch that you bought and try it out on. So please do that. It takes about 10 seconds to do, totally free, and you will stay connected with us. All right, guys, thanks for tuning into the LandTrust podcast and this episode of Outsides Insiders. We'll catch you on the next one.